Colonel Evelyn Hart did not ask me to salute her ex-husband. She ordered me to. That distinction mattered. We were standing outside Hangar 3 at Fort Redstone, Georgia, 20 minutes before the brigade's command readiness demonstration. I was in uniform. Staff Sergeant Mason Hart. E6. 11 years Army. 2 deployments. 1 Purple Heart I almost never wore outside formal events. And the man climbing out of a black government-contracted SUV was not in uniform. Daniel Voss had retired from the Army 14 months earlier as a lieutenant colonel. He now worked for Ardent Strategic Systems, the defense contractor hoping to win a training support package tied to my wife's brigade. No active commission. No uniform. No command authority over me. No salute required. Daniel walked toward us wearing a tailored charcoal suit, sunglasses, and the expression of a man who still expected people to clear hallways for him. Evelyn stood beside Brigadier General Marcus Hale's visiting staff. She looked immaculate. Colonel's eagles. Hair perfect. Command presence turned all the way up. Daniel stopped 3 steps away. Mason. Mr. Voss. His smile tightened. Not Lieutenant Colonel Voss. Not sir. Mr. Voss. Correct. Evelyn heard it. Mason. I turned. Ma'am. Render the courtesy. I thought she meant I had missed somebody behind him. General officer? Visiting colonel? Nobody. Just Daniel. I looked at her. To whom? Her jaw moved once. Lieutenant Colonel Voss. Daniel almost smiled. He's retired, ma'am. The air changed. Evelyn hated being corrected in front of people. She hated it more when the person doing the correcting shared her last name. A major from division staff suddenly became very interested in his tablet. Daniel took off his sunglasses. Still technical about everything, Hart? I ignored him. Evelyn stepped closer. That man served 22 years. I'm aware. He held battalion command. I'm aware. You will show respect. I am. Then salute him. There it was again. Clear. Direct. Wrong. I kept my hands at my sides. No, ma'am. Her face went cold. Daniel said quietly. Evelyn, leave it. That made it worse. I knew it would. Their relationship had ended almost 6 years before I met her. No children. No messy custody. No reason they needed to remain close. Yet Daniel kept reappearing around major milestones. Promotion ceremonies. Defense industry conferences. Association dinners. Now a contractor visit. Evelyn always called it professional overlap. Maybe it was. I had never accused her of cheating. That wasn't the problem. The problem was how she changed when Daniel was in the room. With me, she expected understanding. With him, she wanted recognition. Especially of what he used to be. Staff Sergeant Hart, she said. The use of my full rank was deliberate. You have been given a lawful order. No, ma'am. One of the division majors finally looked up. That was the moment this stopped being marital tension. A soldier had just told an O6 her order was not lawful. Publicly. Evelyn's voice dropped. Explain yourself. Mr. Voss is a retired officer visiting in civilian status on behalf of a contractor. I'm not required to render a hand salute to him. Daniel said. This really isn't necessary. I looked at him. Agreed. Evelyn's eyes flashed. Enough. Then she did something I still replay sometimes. She stepped directly in front of me. Not wife to husband. Colonel to staff sergeant. Render the salute. People were watching now. I could have done it. That would have been easiest. 1 hand. 2 seconds. Humor her. Protect her from embarrassment. Daniel probably would have returned it awkwardly. Everybody moves on. That was the version Evelyn expected. Our marriage had trained her to expect it. I swallowed inconvenience. She got the clean outcome. Not this time. No, ma'am. Silence. Evelyn turned to Lieutenant Colonel Aaron Bell, my battalion commander, standing near the hangar entrance. Colonel Bell. He walked over slowly. Yes, ma'am. Remove Staff Sergeant Hart from the demonstration. Bell looked at me. Then Daniel. Then Evelyn. Ma'am, may I ask what occurred? I issued an order. Bell's expression became careful. What order? To render military courtesy to a retired senior officer. Bell glanced at Daniel's civilian clothes. That was enough. He understood the problem immediately. Ma'am. I am not discussing it here. Bell stopped. That was Evelyn's talent. She could turn pressure into procedure before anyone had time to challenge the premise. Staff Sergeant, Bell said, come with me. I did. No scene. No shouting. No speech about my rights. Just walked. Behind me, Daniel said something I couldn't hear. I never turned around. By noon, I was removed from the readiness demonstration. By 2, I had a counseling statement. By 4:30, I was told Colonel Hart had formally referred the matter to my battalion commander as failure to obey a lawful order and disrespect toward a superior commissioned officer. That second accusation was already ridiculous. Daniel was not my superior commissioned officer. He was not a commissioned officer anymore. But Evelyn's written statement described him as retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Voss, present in an official advisory capacity during a military-hosted event. Clever wording. Not false. Not quite the point either. Colonel Bell called me into his office. He closed the door. You want to tell me why you chose this hill? I didn't choose it, sir. You could have saluted. Yes. You knew what Colonel Hart meant. Yes. And? She cannot convert personal respect into military obligation because she wants him treated like he still holds rank. Bell rubbed his face. You understand how this looks. Yes. Her husband refusing an order in front of division staff. Yes. Her ex standing there. Yes. God help me. I almost smiled. He didn't. Then he slid the counseling toward me. I'm not preferring charges today. That surprised me. Sir, I'm gathering facts. Good commander. But brigade wants action. There it was. And Colonel Hart commands brigade. Yes. I looked down. My battalion belonged to the 18th Sustainment Brigade. Her brigade. That was one reason our marriage had become increasingly complicated after my reassignment 6 months earlier. We had disclosed the relationship. I had been moved out of brigade headquarters and into a battalion company specifically to create supervisory distance. On paper, Evelyn was not my raider. Not my senior raider. Not my daily supervisor. But she was still the brigade commander. The Army could separate evaluation chains. It could not make an eagle disappear from the organization chart. Bell continued. I've requested legal review. Thank you, sir. You should also speak with defense counsel. That told me how serious this had become. Am I being offered Article 15? Not yet. Sir. He sighed. Brigade Legal believes the refusal may support failure to obey if the order itself is treated as a command to perform a ceremonial courtesy rather than enforcement of a salute requirement. I stared at him. That was creative. Too creative. They're saying she didn't order me to obey saluting regulation. They're saying a commander can order a subordinate to perform ceremonial acts not independently required by regulation, provided the order serves a valid military purpose. And saluting her ex served what military purpose? Bell looked tired. That is exactly the question. Good. Then. Go home. I laughed once. That was another problem. Home meant Colonel Hart. Bell realized it too. Or don't. Strong guidance, sir. I'm doing my best. I went to a motel. At 9:18 that night, Evelyn called. I watched her name until the screen nearly went dark. Then answered. Mason. Colonel. A pause. Don't do that. You called about work or home? Home. Then Evelyn. She exhaled. I need you to stop escalating this. I almost laughed. I refused to salute a civilian. You refused me. There it was. Not the regulation. Not Daniel. Her. I refused an order you never should have given. I was trying to prevent you from humiliating him. He walked out of a contractor SUV. He served longer than you've been in. Then I respect his service. You called him Mr. Voss like he was nobody. He is Mr. Voss. He earned lieutenant colonel. And then retired. Her voice sharpened. You knew what that moment meant. No. I knew what it meant to you. Silence. Then she said. He mentored half the officers who built this brigade. Then they can admire him. You were making a point. So were you. That landed. She lowered her voice. Mason, division leadership was standing there. Yes. You made me look like I couldn't control my own soldier. My chest went cold. Not husband. Soldier. There was the real problem. You're not supposed to control me because I'm your husband. I meant as brigade commander. I know exactly what you meant. She went quiet. Then, if you accept corrective action and let this end, I can keep it from becoming bigger. I sat up. What corrective action? Field grade Article 15. There it was. Already decided. For what offense? Failure to obey. Reduction? Silence. That answered me. How far? 1 grade. From Staff Sergeant E6 to Sergeant E5. Years of promotion work erased over a salute I did not owe. You approved that? I recommended it. You recommended reducing your husband because he wouldn't salute your ex? Do not say it like that. How should I say it? You publicly refused a brigade commander's order. An improper order. Legal says it is arguable. Arguable? That word told me everything. Not clearly lawful. Arguable. And if I demand trial by court-martial? Her breathing changed. She had not expected that. Article 15 was non-judicial punishment. I could refuse it unless certain operational circumstances applied. Then the command would have to decide whether to take the matter to court-martial. Where evidence mattered. Where the order's actual purpose mattered. Where everyone at Hangar 3 could testify. Including Daniel. Including division staff. Including my wife. Mason. Yes? Don't. Why? Because this does not need to become a public fight. It already became official when you referred it. I can still contain it. I almost admired the word. Contain. Like I was a fuel spill. I'm speaking with Trial Defense Services tomorrow. She went silent. Then. You're really going to fight me over a salute? No. I looked at my uniform hanging over the motel chair. You're willing to take my rank over one. I ended the call. The next morning, Trial Defense Services asked for everything. The written counseling. The alleged order. Witness names. Event schedule. Daniel's status. Contract documents. My marriage disclosure memorandum. Brigade Legal's preliminary analysis. Then Captain Leah Moreno, the defense attorney assigned to me, asked one question nobody else had. What official role did Mr. Voss have that morning? Contractor representative. Was Ardent Strategic under contract yet? No. Was the demonstration part of source selection? I think it was related. Her eyes lifted. Related how? Ardent was one of the firms pursuing the training support package. She stopped writing. And Colonel Hart ordered her husband, an enlisted soldier in the brigade, to ceremonially salute a retired officer representing a company seeking business from her command? When she phrased it that way, the room changed. I hadn't thought about the contractor part. I have. She opened a fresh page. Does Colonel Hart participate in acquisition decisions? Not directly in source selection, as far as I know. Does she influence requirements? Yes. Did Voss have personal history with her? They were married. I know. Captain Moreno leaned back. This is not just about whether she could order a salute. What is it about? Command climate. Appearance of favoritism. Potential misuse of authority. And whether your punishment is retaliation for refusing to participate in something that may itself have created an ethics problem. For the first time since Hangar 3, I stopped feeling like the entire army belonged to my wife. Then she said, I'm notifying installation defense leadership and requesting the command preserve all communications concerning your proposed punishment. Why installation? Because Colonel Hart is the brigade commander. And? I don't want this reviewed only inside her brigade. That afternoon, Colonel Bell called. His voice was different. Careful. Staff Sergeant Hart. Sir. Do not sign anything. I stood. Sir. Do not accept Article 15. What happened? Division headquarters has assumed review. My pulse changed. Why? I can't discuss everything yet. Then. But they want Colonel Hart's referral package, legal communications, the contractor visitor records, and all messages concerning Mr. Voss's attendance. This was getting bigger. Exactly what Evelyn had told me not to allow. Am I still facing reduction? For now, yes. For now. Bell paused. Division is also reviewing whether Colonel Hart should have been involved in recommending punishment at all. That night, Evelyn did not call. At 7:12, she sent one message. You went over my head. I stared at it. Then typed. No. Your order did. I never sent it. I didn't need to. At 7:26, Colonel Bell called again. Report to Division Headquarters at 0700. Uniform? Class B. Purpose? Review interview. Then he hesitated. Mason. Yes, sir. Bring your rank insignia. I looked at the staff sergeant chevrons on my desk. My wife had spent 24 hours trying to take one stripe away because I refused to salute the man she used to love. Now division headquarters wanted the insignia with me. I did not yet know whether they planned to take it, or put it back before she ever got the chance. Division headquarters did not give me my stripe back at 0700. It took it away first. That distinction mattered. When I arrived at Fort Redstone's division headquarters, Captain Leah Moreno was waiting outside the legal office. She looked at the staff sergeant insignia on my Class B uniform. Then at the envelope in my hand containing a spare set. You brought them? Colonel Bell told me to. Good. That sounds ominous. It is. We walked inside. Lieutenant Colonel Rebecca Sloan from Division Administrative Law sat at the head of the conference table. Beside her was an Inspector General investigator I recognized only by name, Major Isaac Trent. Colonel Bell was there. So was a representative from Division G1. Evelyn was not. Daniel Voss was not. That told me this was not another attempt to settle a marital argument quietly. Lieutenant Colonel Sloan opened a folder. Staff Sergeant Hart, before we begin, I need to clarify your current status. I sat straighter. Yes, ma'am. Yesterday at 16:35, Colonel Evelyn Hart imposed non-judicial punishment under Article 15. I looked at Moreno. She nodded once. I had not accepted anything. I had not appeared before Evelyn. I had not waived my right to demand trial. How? Sloane's expression did not change. The brigade packet reflects that you were notified electronically and that punishment was imposed after you failed to appear. I was never ordered to an Article 15 hearing. Colonel Bell immediately said. He wasn't. Sloane looked at him. Your statement says that. Yes, ma'am. I turned to Moreno. What exactly did she impose? Moreno answered. Reduction from staff sergeant to sergeant. My stomach tightened. Forfeiture? No. Extra duty? No. Just reduction? Yes. That somehow made it worse. No attempt at correction. No rehabilitation. No proportional package. She wanted the stripe. Lieutenant Colonel Sloan continued. The brigade transmitted the reduction action to personnel systems last night. So I'm an E5? The G1 major answered carefully. Administratively, as of this morning, your record reflects sergeant. I looked down at the rank on my uniform. Staff sergeant. Technically wrong now. That was why Bell told me to bring insignia. Captain Moreno leaned toward me. Do not react yet. Easy advice from someone whose pay grade had not disappeared overnight. Sloan said. Sergeant Hart, the division commander has directed an immediate review of both the punishment and the circumstances surrounding it. There it was. Sergeant. I hated how quickly one word changed the room. What do you need from me? The truth. Major Trent opened his notebook. Start at Hangar 3. So I did. No speeches. No assumptions. Daniel arrived in civilian clothes. Evelyn ordered me to salute. I declined. She repeated the order. I declined again. She removed me from the demonstration. Then came the counseling. The referral. The call that night. When I reached the conversation about Article 15, Sloan stopped me. Colonel Hart told you she had recommended a 1-grade reduction? Yes. Did she tell you she would personally impose it? No. What did she say exactly? I repeated it. If you accept corrective action and let this end, I can keep it from becoming bigger. Then. Field grade Article 15. Then I asked about reduction. She said 1 grade. Major Trent looked at Sloan. That exchange mattered. Did she tell you that you had the right to consult counsel? No. Right to demand trial? No. She knew you intended to speak with TDS. Yes. How? I told her. What time? Approximately 21:15. Trent checked something. And the Article 15 packet was initiated the next morning? Moreno corrected him. The DA Form 2627 in the brigade file is time-stamped before his TDS appointment. The room went quiet. Sloan turned a page. Then another. Her jaw tightened. What time did Sergeant Hart supposedly acknowledge notification? 0642, Moreno said. I shook my head. I was driving to TDS at 0642. Can you prove that? My phone location. Gate entry. Parking lot cameras probably, Colonel Bell added. He checked into TDS at 0658. Major Trent stopped writing. Sloan looked at the personnel representative, who processed the acknowledgement. Brigade S1 received the completed packet. From? A pause. Brigade Legal. That was not good. Sloan closed the folder. We are preserving the original file. Moreno asked. Is Division suspending the reduction? We are considering immediate corrective action. Considering? Sloan looked at her. We need the division commander's signature. I understood the army well enough to know what that meant. This was no longer about whether I deserved punishment. It was about whether the punishment legally existed. Major Trent moved to the contractor issue. What did you know about Ardent Strategic's purpose at the demonstration? Not much. Did you know Voss was part of a company pursuing brigade work? Yes. Did Colonel Hart ever discuss Ardent at home? Only generally. Did she express preference? No. Did Voss? I don't speak with him unless I have to. Did Colonel Hart ask you to treat any other contractor representatives with ceremonial military courtesies? No. Any retired generals? Not that I remember. Retired colonels? No. Only Voss? Yes. That was the part nobody could make disappear. Even if a commander technically could order some ceremonial gesture outside normal regulation, why this civilian? Why this retired officer? Why her former husband? And why punish her current husband for refusing? At 0820, Sloan ended the interview. You'll wait here. For what? Division Commander. 23 minutes later, Major General Patrick Rourke entered. 2 stars. No entourage except his command sergeant major. Everybody stood. He waved us down. Rourke looked at me first. Then at my staff sergeant insignia. You haven't changed it. No, sir. Good. The G1 major visibly relaxed. Rourke sat. I reviewed enough of the packet to make one decision. He looked at Sloan. Publish the restoration order. My chest tightened. She slid a document toward me. The division commander had set aside the reduction pending review because the Article 15 action showed substantial procedural defects, including questionable notification, absence of documented waiver, and unresolved conflict concerns regarding the imposing commander. Not innocence. Not yet. But the stripe was mine again. Rourke looked directly at me. Staff Sergeant Hart. That sounded better than it should have. Yes, sir. Your grade is restored effective without break. Meaning pay. Date of rank. Personnel record. No gap. What happens now? Now we determine whether misconduct occurred. Fair. If I conclude you disobeyed a lawful order, this restoration does not immunize you. Understood. If I conclude the order was improper, that matters too. Yes, sir. Then his voice hardened. And separately, we determine how a brigade commander managed to reduce a soldier who had already indicated intent to consult defense counsel without a valid waiver documented in the packet. Nobody moved. Rourke continued. This is not a marriage counseling session. His eyes moved from me to Bell. It is a command authority problem. There it was. The frame changed completely. Not husband versus wife. Not jealous enlisted man versus respected retired officer. Authority. Rourke stood. Put your spare insignia away. I did. For the first time in 2 days, I breathed normally. Then he said, Colonel Hart has been temporarily withheld from exercising UCMJ authority over this brigade pending review. I stared at him. Not relieved from command. Not yet. But part of her authority had just been removed. Her deputy would handle military justice matters. Rourke added. And she is directed to have no contact with you concerning this case except through counsel or official channels. That one hit differently. The army had just put a wall inside my marriage. I understood why. Still hurt. Outside headquarters, Moreno handed me a copy of the restoration memorandum. You should scan this. I'm framing it. She almost smiled. Then. This is only stage 1. I know. Evelyn's action being defective does not automatically make the underlying order unlawful. I know. And there's another problem. What? Ardent. Of course. Division acquisition personnel had already confirmed the readiness demonstration was not a formal source selection event. But Ardent Strategic was actively pursuing a future training support requirement. Daniel had attended under an industry engagement invitation. Several other firms were present. No procurement violation had been established. Still, Evelyn's personal history with Daniel created an appearance issue that should have been disclosed and managed. Especially if she was publicly ordering soldiers to give him unusual treatment. Moreno said. IG will pull communications. With Daniel? Yes. My wife's personal messages? If relevant and legally obtainable. I hated hearing it. Do you think they were having an affair? I have no basis to think that. Neither do I. Then don't create one. Good. I liked Moreno. She had no interest in making the story more dramatic than the evidence. By noon, the brigade knew my rank had been restored. That was almost worse than losing it quietly. People looked at me in hallways. Some congratulated me. I shut that down. Review isn't finished. Others avoided me completely. Nobody knew whether talking to the brigade commander's husband was dangerous. At 13:30, Colonel Bell called me in. He closed the door. Evelyn's been pulled from the afternoon command brief. Temporarily? Yes. Who's running brigade? Deputy commander. I said nothing. Bell watched me. You okay? No. Good answer. Then he slid a witness statement across the desk. It was from Daniel. Voluntary. Taken that morning. I read it. Daniel confirmed he was retired and in civilian status. Confirmed he did not expect a salute. Confirmed he told Evelyn to leave the matter alone. Then came the line that changed the case. I believed Colonel Hart's direction to Staff Sergeant Hart was personal in nature. I did not understand it as necessary to any military function associated with my visit. I looked up. He said that? Signed it. Daniel had just undercut Evelyn. Maybe unintentionally. Maybe because he was protecting himself. Either way, the man she had tried to honor was now saying the order looked personal. Bell pointed lower. Another paragraph. Colonel Hart and I had discussed before the visit that Mason resented my continued professional relationship with her. I told her I did not want my presence to create problems. She responded that Mason needed to learn to separate his personal feelings from military courtesies. My stomach dropped. Before the visit. She had anticipated this. Not the exact refusal, maybe. But the friction. Did she plan the salute? Bell shook his head. No evidence of that. Then what? She knew Daniel's presence bothered you. Yes. And apparently decided beforehand that if tension surfaced, she would treat it as a military discipline issue. That was worse in a quieter way. She had already chosen the lens. My discomfort was jealousy. Her response was command. At 15:05, IG found another message. Not secret. Government email. Evelyn to brigade protocol 2 days before the event. Ensure LTC, RET, Voss receives appropriate senior officer courtesies during visit. He remains highly respected in the formation. Protocol replied. Ma'am, noted. As a retired officer attending in civilian capacity, standard visitor protocol will apply. No salute requirement. She had been told. Explicitly. No salute requirement. Then she ordered me anyway. Captain Moreno read the email twice. Well. That bad? It answers one question. Which? She cannot credibly claim she misunderstood the normal courtesy requirement. That did not automatically make the order unlawful. But it stripped away mistake. Now the question was purpose. At 17:30, Major General Rourke issued another order. Colonel Evelyn Hart was temporarily relieved of brigade command pending investigation into potential misuse of command authority, procedural irregularities in non-judicial punishment, and failure to appropriately manage a personal relationship intersecting with official duties. Not convicted. Not demoted. Relieved. Temporary. But everyone knew what it meant when a 2-star personally removed an O-6 from command. Her eagle was still on her chest. Her brigade was not. I found out through the official message before she could tell me. 10 minutes later, my personal phone rang. Evelyn. I was not supposed to discuss the case with her. I stared at the screen. Let it stop. Then a text appeared. Not about the investigation. Please. I just need to know whether you're coming home tonight. I sat in my truck outside battalion headquarters. For almost a minute, I did nothing. Then typed. No. 3 dots. Gone. Back again. Because they relieved me? I answered. Because you used your rank against me before they ever touched yours. This time, she did not reply. That evening, the army had restored the stripe my wife tried to take. And headquarters had taken away the command she thought made her order unquestionable. But Evelyn was still a colonel. Still my wife. Still entitled to due process. And somewhere inside division headquarters, investigators were now asking the question that would decide whether she kept those eagles. Had Colonel Evelyn Hart made one bad command decision because her marriage collided with her authority? Or had she used the army to settle a personal loyalty test she already knew regulations would not support? The army did not strip Evelyn's rank the next morning. It took 3 weeks. That mattered because rumors moved faster than procedure. By the second day of her relief, soldiers were already saying she had been demoted. She had not. By the 4th, someone claimed Daniel Voss had been sleeping with her. No evidence. By the 5th, another rumor said I had secretly recorded our argument and sent it to the commanding general. Also false. I hated all of it. Not because I wanted to protect Evelyn's image. Because exaggeration was exactly how bad decisions escaped accountability. If everybody focused on a fictional affair, the real issue became easier to dismiss. She had used command authority to force a personal gesture. Then tried to punish me when I refused. That was serious enough. Captain Moreno told me the same thing. Don't feed the gossip. I'm not talking to anyone. Good. Is Evelyn? Through counsel only. Who represents her? Colonel Nathan Reese. I knew the name. Former military judge. Now senior defense counsel at a neighboring installation. Good lawyer. That made me feel strangely better. I wanted Evelyn defended properly. If headquarters was going to take something from her, I wanted it done for reasons that survived scrutiny. Not because everyone was angry. Moreno looked at me. You keep saying things that confuse me. What? You seem invested in her getting fair process. She's my wife. That usually makes people less reasonable. I'm trying something new. She almost smiled. Then handed me a memorandum. The division commander had ordered a command investigation under Army Administrative Procedures. Different from criminal investigation. Different from court-martial. The investigating officer was Brigadier General Laura Beck, deputy commander from another division. Outside Evelyn's chain. Her task was narrow. Determine whether Evelyn used command authority for a personal purpose, improperly interfered with disciplinary action against me, created or failed to manage a conflict involving Daniel and ardent strategic, or compromised command climate through favoritism. No allegation of adultery. No bribery inquiry. No accusation she manipulated the contract award. Good. Facts first. General Beck interviewed 28 people. Protocol staff. Brigade legal. Colonel Bell. Division observers. Daniel. Me. Evelyn. Even the specialist who had been standing near Hangar 3 pretending not to listen. The most damaging evidence did not come from me. It came from Evelyn's own staff. Major Claire Donovan, brigade executive officer, testified that Evelyn called her 10 minutes after the hangar incident. According to Donovan, she said Mason had embarrassed her in front of Voss and division. Not disobeyed. Embarrassed. General Beck asked. Her exact words? Donovan answered. As close as I remember, he did that because Daniel was standing there. He made it personal, so I'm going to make sure he understands I was speaking as his brigade commander. That sentence hurt more than the reduction paperwork. Because it showed the sequence. She believed I had made the moment personal. So she intentionally answered with institutional power. Not discipline first. Conversion. Marriage conflict into command action. Then Beck asked Donovan. Did Colonel Hart discuss removing rank? Yes. When? That afternoon. Before legal review? Yes. What did you say? I told her I thought the matter should stay with the battalion commander. Why? Because Staff Sergeant Hart was her spouse. And? Donovan paused. I said even if she had authority, exercising it personally would look retaliatory. What did Colonel Hart say? The transcript showed an 8-second pause. Then. She said handing it down would make her look weak. That was the line everybody remembered. Weak. Not wrong. Not unfair. Weak. When I read it, I put the paper down. Moreno watched me. You okay? No. You want a minute? No. I kept reading. Brigade Legal was next. Major Samuel Ives testified that his office had initially recommended no punishment until the order's purpose was reviewed. He had specifically warned that Daniel's retired status and personal history with Evelyn made the salute issue unusually sensitive. Evelyn asked whether she could still issue an order requiring a ceremonial courtesy. I've said possibly, if tied to a legitimate military purpose. Then Evelyn asked, if a soldier refuses after I clarify it is an order, isn't that failure to obey? Ives answered, potentially. That was the word she later gave me. Arguable. The problem came afterward. Ives testified that he told her. But ma'am, before any action, we should determine whether the original order was proper and move the case outside your direct involvement. She did neither. Instead, later that day, a paralegal in Brigade Legal received instructions to prepare a field-grade Article 15 packet. The paralegal assumed the battalion would handle notification. Battalion assumed Brigade was still reviewing. Nobody properly served me. Then somehow the packet returned marked as though I had been notified. That was the worst procedural question. Who marked it? The answer surprised everyone. Not Evelyn. Captain Jason Kell, Brigade Administrative Officer. He testified that he received a digital packet with a blank acknowledgement block and an email from Evelyn's aide saying, "Col Hart wants this closed today. SSG Hart is already aware of intended NJP. Process for commander signature." Kell interpreted "already aware" as formal notification. Wrong. He entered the date. Forwarded the packet. Never spoke to me. General Beck asked, "Did Colonel Hart tell you to falsify notification?" "No, ma'am." "Did she direct you to sign for the soldier?" "No." "Did she verify notification before imposing punishment?" "I don't know." That distinction mattered. Evelyn had pushed a broken process. She had not forged my acknowledgement. Administrative sloppiness belonged to more than one person. Captain Kell received his own counseling. The paralegal procedures changed. The Army was not going to turn every error into Evelyn's crime. Then Daniel testified. General Beck asked him directly, "Did Colonel Hart ever ask you to expect a salute from Staff Sergeant Hart?" "No." "Did you want one?" "No." "Did you believe you were entitled to one?" "No." "Did you and Colonel Hart discuss Staff Sergeant Hart before the visit?" "Yes." "What did she say?" Daniel looked uncomfortable even in the transcript. "She said Mason had never liked me." "True enough." "And?" "She said he resented that we still worked in the same professional circles." "Also true, though resented was her word." "What did you say?" "I told her I didn't care whether he liked me." "Then?" "I told her not to make anything ceremonial around me because it would look ridiculous." I actually laughed when I read that. Moreno raised an eyebrow. "First time?" "What?" "You've laughed since this started." Daniel apparently had more sense than both of us. Then came the part nobody expected. General Beck asked, "Did Colonel Hart ever suggest that Staff Sergeant Hart's behavior toward you had affected her view of him professionally?" Daniel hesitated. "Yes." My stomach tightened. "When?" "Several months ago." "What did she say?" Daniel answered. "She said Mason had trouble respecting rank when personal feelings were involved." That was not true. At least I did not think it was. Context? We were discussing an association dinner. Mason called me Daniel instead of Colonel Voss. I remembered. Civilian event. Daniel had been retired 6 months. I called him Daniel. Evelyn corrected me afterward. I thought it was petty. Apparently she had remembered it as evidence. General Beck asked, "Did you tell her he was wrong?" "No." "What did you say?" "I told her I was retired and didn't care." Again. Daniel kept refusing the role she had written for him. Then the investigator asked the question that changed everything. "Mr. Voss, did Colonel Hart ever discuss using military rank or command authority to compel her husband to treat you with more respect?" Long pause. "Yes." I stopped reading. Moreno said nothing. Daniel explained. 2 months before Hangar 3, after the association dinner, Evelyn sent him a personal text. "Mason forgets sometimes that disliking you doesn't erase what you earned. If he ever pulls that in uniform, I'll correct it." Daniel replied, "Please don't make me part of your marriage." That message had been preserved on his phone. There was no ambiguity. She had anticipated exactly this category of conflict. Not necessarily the salute, but using uniformed authority to correct how I treated her ex. That turned one bad moment into a pattern of intent. Not repeated misconduct. Repeated thinking. General Beck asked Evelyn about it. Her answer was probably the most honest thing she gave the investigation. I believed Mason's attitude toward Daniel reflected poorly on him as a non-commissioned officer. Why? Because Daniel was a respected retired officer. Was Staff Sergeant Hart disrespectful to other retired officers? No. Contractors? No. Senior civilians? No. So the concern was Daniel specifically? Yes. Because he was your former husband? Evelyn paused. Partly. There it was. General Beck asked. Why did you believe command authority was appropriate to resolve that? Evelyn answered. I thought if Mason chose to express personal resentment while in uniform, I had the right to address it as conduct. That was her best defense. And it was not absurd. A soldier does not get unlimited freedom to behave badly just because the target is civilian. Uniform matters. Professionalism matters. Commanders can correct conduct. Then Beck asked. Was calling Mr. Voss unprofessional? No. Was refusing a salute not otherwise required by protocol unprofessional? Evelyn went silent. Finally. Not by regulation alone. Then what were you correcting? The transcript showed a 21-second pause. Evelyn answered. Defiance. That one word ended most of her defense. She had not been correcting disrespect toward Daniel. She had been correcting refusal toward herself. General Beck's report reached division on Friday. I did not get a copy immediately. Evelyn did. Her attorney did. The commanding general did. For 72 hours, nothing happened. Then Monday morning, the brigade formation was ordered for 1,000. I was told not to attend. That terrified me more than attending. At 0948, Colonel Bell called me into his office. He closed the door. Mason. Yes, sir. Division is taking action. What kind? He looked at me for a long moment. Colonel Hart is permanently relieved of command. My chest went hollow. Okay. General Officer Memorandum of Reprimand. Filed where? Permanent record. That alone could end an 06 career. But the title said more. I knew it. Bell continued. And the commanding general has initiated grade determination action. I stared at him. Grade determination? Her colonel promotion is under review because the misconduct occurred while serving in that grade. That was how officers lost rank differently. Not an instant cartoon demotion. Administrative determination of the highest grade satisfactorily served. Potential retirement at lieutenant colonel. Possibly lower depending the record. Is that decided? No. Important. What is decided? She will not return to brigade command. I looked at the floor. Bell said quietly. I'm sorry. You shouldn't be. You're allowed to be. I did not know what I was. Angry. Vindicated. Sick. Still married. All of them. At 1017, my phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. Official restrictions on case contact had been modified now that the command investigation was complete. They relieved me permanently. I stared. Then another. My promotion grade is under review. I replied. I heard. 3 dots. Then. Daniel testified against me. I almost corrected her. He had testified truthfully. But I stopped. She needed to arrive there herself. Instead I typed. He answered questions. Long pause. Then. I know. That surprised me. Another message came. I kept thinking he would say I was only trying to enforce respect. There it was. The old expectation. That Daniel would protect the meaning she wanted. He hadn't. He had refused the salute. Refused the marriage role. Refused to call her punishment necessary. Even her ex would not lend her his version of events. At 11:30, Division published the relief announcement. No salacious details. Loss of confidence in ability to command. Administrative investigation. No criminal findings. No procurement fraud. No affair. Clean. Serious. By lunch, Daniel's company issued its own statement saying he had cooperated fully and that Ardent Strategic had withdrawn him from all Fort Redstone business activity to avoid further appearance concerns. He was not fired. The company was not banned. The contract process continued with a different representative. Again, reality refused to collapse into spectacle. At 1500, Captain Moreno called me. Your adverse action is fully closed. What does that mean? No punishment. No pending misconduct? No. Counseling? Local file removed. Personnel record? Clean. My rank was not merely restored. The underlying case was over. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I drove back to the motel and sat on the edge of the bed. My staff sergeant insignia lay on the dresser. Still mine. Evelyn's Colonel Eagles were still hers too. For now. But headquarters had started the process that could decide she had never satisfactorily served at that grade. The symmetry everyone would later celebrate felt ugly from inside the marriage. She tried to strip mine. HQ restored it. Then began stripping hers. But there was nothing satisfying about watching the woman you loved discover that authority had limits only after she used it against you. That evening, Evelyn called. I answered. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally she said, "Mason." "Evelyn. I was wrong." "Not sorry first." "Wrong. That mattered." "About what?" "The salute. The punishment." "Daniel." She stopped. "And you?" I waited. Then. "I thought because I was right about rank mattering in general, I was right about making it matter in that moment." Her voice shook. "I wasn't." "No. I thought your refusal was about him." "It was partly." "I know. But it was also about me?" "Yes." She breathed out. "Because I wanted you to prove, in front of everyone, that my authority mattered more than your resentment." That was exactly it. Then she said. "And when you wouldn't, I tried to take your rank until it did." For the first time since Hangar 3, Evelyn described the thing without hiding inside procedure. I closed my eyes. "What happens now?" She laughed once. "Broken. Headquarters decides what grade I deserve to leave the army with." "And us?" Silence. "Much longer." "I don't know." Neither did I. But one thing had become clear. The army had finished deciding whether my refusal deserved punishment. Now it was deciding whether Evelyn's need to win that moment had cost her the rank she spent 22 years earning. The investigation into Evelyn's rank uncovered something General Beck had not been looking for. My promotion file. I found out because Colonel Bell called me at 0615 on a Wednesday and asked whether I had ever been told my name was removed from the brigade's Sergeant First Class development slate. I sat up in the motel bed. "What development slate?" Silence. That answered more than his next sentence. "You weren't told." "No, sir." "Come in." I was at battalion headquarters 40 minutes later. Bell had 2 documents on his desk. One was 9 months old. The other 6. Neither had ever been shown to me. The Army did not promote staff sergeants to sergeant first class because a brigade commander liked them. Promotion boards looked at records. Evaluations. Assignments. Schools. Potential. But brigades still identified high-performing NCOs for broadening assignments, leadership courses, key developmental positions, and opportunities that made stronger promotion files. 9 months earlier, my battalion had nominated me for a Division Logistics Fellowship and an Advanced Leader Development slot. The first memorandum showed Bell's recommendation. Highly recommended. The second showed the brigade endorsement block. Not supported at this time. Signed. Evelyn Hart, COL, commanding. My wife. I stared at the page. "Why?" Bell looked sick. "That's what Division wants to know." "Did you ask her?" "At the time?" "Yes. I did." "And?" "She said she had concerns about your professional judgment around senior leaders." My chest tightened. "What senior leaders?" "She didn't name anyone." "Did you believe her?" Bell hesitated. "I believed there might be something I wasn't seeing." That hurt, but it was reasonable. She was a brigade commander. His commander. My wife, yes, but also someone with access to parts of my professional life he might not see. "What did you do?" "I did not change your NCOR." "Good." "I did not initiate adverse action." "Better." "But I sent another soldier for the fellowship." There it was. An opportunity disappeared. Quietly. No rank taken. No punishment. Nothing I could appeal because I never knew it existed. I picked up the second document. 6 months earlier, my company commander had recommended me for acting first sergeant during a 4-month vacancy. Bell supported it. Brigade headquarters responded. Recommend alternative candidate due potential perception concerns associated with familial relationship to brigade commander. That sounded more defensible. I looked at Bell. That one makes sense. Maybe. Why maybe? Because Colonel Hart brought up the concern. She should have. Yes. But? Bell slid over an email. From Evelyn to him. 6 months earlier. Aaron, putting Mason in a visible 1SG role inside this brigade creates unnecessary attention. Given some recent concerns about his maturity around senior former leaders, I recommend you use another NCO until permanent fill arrives. I stopped breathing for a second. Senior former leaders. Daniel. Again. Bell nodded. That's what division thinks. Did you know she meant Voss? No. If you had, I would have asked more questions. I looked at the date. 3 days after the association dinner where I called Daniel by his first name. The same incident Evelyn later discussed with him. The same incident that produced her text. If he ever pulls that in uniform, I'll correct it. This was no longer just Hangar 3. She had been letting her private irritation with how I treated Daniel bleed into professional judgments about my maturity for months. Not enough to ruin my career. Enough to quietly shape it. I asked. Was I actually competitive for the fellowship? Yes. Would I have gotten it? I don't know. Good answer. Acting first sergeant? You were my first choice. That one landed harder. How long? 4 months. I laughed once. I would have liked to know. I know. Bell looked genuinely ashamed. You understand why I didn't tell you then? Yes. Commanders make selections all the time. Not every soldier gets a memo explaining why somebody else was chosen. That was normal. The hidden reason was not. Captain Moreno arrived 15 minutes later. She read both documents. Then sat very still. This changes the conflict analysis. How much? A lot. Because she affected my career? Potentially. She tapped the fellowship memorandum. Be careful with wording. Right. No exaggeration. She withheld endorsement. Yes. Could she legally do that? Absolutely. For any reason? No. If she genuinely believed I lacked maturity, that is a command judgment. Even if the belief came from something personal, that is where it becomes a problem. Moreno pointed at the timeline. Association dinner. Private complaint about Daniel. Text promising to correct me if it happened in uniform. Then career recommendation. Then Hangar 3. Then attempted rank reduction. This starts looking less like one spontaneous misuse of authority. What does it look like? A commander carrying a personal grievance into multiple professional decisions. That sentence followed me all morning. Not revenge. Not conspiracy. Contamination. A marriage problem entering places it had no business being. By noon, General Beck reopened 2 interviews. Bell. Evelyn. I was not present for either. But Evelyn's attorney later gave my counsel the relevant portions because the material directly affected my administrative record. General Beck asked. Colonel Hart, why did you withhold endorsement from Staff Sergeant Hart's fellowship nomination? Evelyn answered. I had concerns about his professional maturity. Based on what? Several incidents. Identify them. One involved me arguing too aggressively with a contractor during a logistics meeting. Real. I remembered it. I had been right on the numbers and wrong in how I delivered them. Bell had counseled me informally. Fair. Another involved a late maintenance report. Also real. Then Beck asked. Was your concern also based on his treatment of Daniel Voss? Long pause. Yes. How much? I can't quantify it. Did you consider your former marriage to Mr. Voss when deciding whether you were the appropriate officer to make that judgment? No. Why not? Because I believed I could separate the personal history. General Beck asked. Do you still believe that? Evelyn answered. No. There was no clever defense after that. Then came the acting first sergeant position. Why did you recommend another NCO? Evelyn initially cited perception concerns because I was her spouse. That part was valid. Then Beck showed her own email. Given some recent concerns about his maturity around senior former leaders. Who were you referring to? Daniel. Was Daniel in Staff Sergeant Hart's rating chain? No. Military chain? No. Was Mr. Voss an active officer? No. Then why did his interaction with Mr. Voss factor into a leadership opportunity? Evelyn answered. Because I thought Mason's conduct reflected how he would handle personal bias in a professional environment. Again, not nonsense. The problem was evidence. Did Staff Sergeant Hart insult Mr. Voss? No. Refuse an official task? No. Create a disturbance? No. What did he do? Called him Daniel. I almost felt sorry for her reading that. General Beck apparently did not. Was that prohibited? No. Disrespectful? In my view. Because? Evelyn paused. Because Daniel retired as a lieutenant colonel. Was the event military? No. Was Staff Sergeant Hart in uniform? No. Another pause. Then Beck asked the question that killed the argument. Colonel, was your judgment about the appropriate way to address your former husband a professional standard applied across the brigade, or a personal standard applied to your current husband? Evelyn did not answer for 32 seconds. Then, personal. That one word entered the supplemental findings. General Beck did not conclude Evelyn had deliberately sabotaged my career. That would have gone too far. She found something more precise. Evelyn had allowed a personal conflict involving her former and current spouses to influence discretionary professional recommendations concerning me. The fellowship recommendation was removed from my record review. Division directed that my original nomination be reconsidered without brigade-level input from Evelyn. The acting first sergeant opportunity could not be recreated. It had passed. No retroactive title. No fictional back pay for a position I never held. That mattered. The Army could correct records. It could not give me 4 months of leadership experience after the calendar had already moved on. That was the first consequence in this entire mess nobody could fully reverse. My rank came back. That opportunity did not. I called Evelyn after the no-contact restriction was narrowed to permit personal communication unrelated to pending board advocacy. She answered quietly. You saw the supplemental findings. Yes. I'm sorry. I know. I didn't think I was blocking your career. You blocked 2 opportunities. I know that now. No. My anger came back. You knew you withheld the fellowship. Yes. You knew you recommended someone else for acting first sergeant. Yes. So don't say you didn't know you were blocking anything. She was silent. I continued. You didn't think of it as blocking my career because you thought your reasons were justified. That's fair. Were they? Partly. That stopped me. Not the answer I expected. She continued. You did have maturity issues. I almost laughed. Good time to mention that. I'm not trying to defend what I did. It sounds like it. No. Her voice steadied. You asked whether my concerns were real. Yes. Some were. She was right. I had been abrasive. Proud. More willing to challenge people I thought were wrong than was always useful. That was not invented. Then she said. But Daniel became evidence for a conclusion I already wanted. There it was. More exact. I was angry that you wouldn't treat him the way I thought he deserved. So I started seeing every disagreement as immaturity. Yes. And because you were brigade commander, that mattered. Yes. I walked to the motel window. Why didn't you recuse yourself? Because I thought recusal would make it look like I couldn't separate being your wife from being your commander. I almost laughed. So to prove you could separate them. I refused to separate them. Yes. That irony hung there. Then Evelyn said. There's something else. I waited. I asked to retire. I turned from the window. What? This morning. My chest tightened. You don't have to. I know. Did headquarters pressure you? My attorney says no formal ultimatum. Then why? Because I'm not getting another command. Probably true. Maybe staff assignment. Yes. Could finish time. Yes. How much until retirement eligibility at grade? She laughed bitterly. That's the question now, isn't it? Evelyn had enough total service to retire. The issue was grade. If her retirement request was approved while adverse grade review remained open, the Army would determine the highest grade in which she had served satisfactorily. Colonel. Or lieutenant colonel. Possibly something else if the board found broader problems, though nothing in the record suggested lower than 05. So you're forcing the grade decision? No. She paused. I'm accepting that staying just to protect the eagle is another version of the same problem. That was a very Evelyn sentence. Still ambitious. Still aware of symbolism. Maybe finally honest about it. Do you want to retire? No. That answer came immediately. Then why do it? Because every reason I have for staying begins with proving something. To headquarters. To the brigade. To herself. Maybe to me. She continued. I don't trust those reasons right now. I sat down. For 22 years, Evelyn had built toward colonel. Command was not a side effect. It was the thing. Maps on our kitchen table. Moves. Schools. Long nights. Missed anniversaries. Promotion lists. Every sacrifice had pointed toward the eagle. Now she was voluntarily asking to leave while a board decided whether she had earned the right to take that eagle into retirement. I should have felt vindicated. Instead I asked, "Are you sure?" "No." That was more believable. 3 days later, her retirement request was accepted for processing pending grade determination. The formal packet went higher headquarters. Evaluations. Awards. Deployment records. Command investigation. General officer reprimand. The supplemental findings involving my career opportunities. Letters from senior officers who had served with her. Some defended her strongly. One former division commander wrote that Evelyn was among the best operational officers he had supervised. Another said one abuse of judgment should not erase 2 decades of distinguished service. Others disagreed. Major Donovan wrote, "The concern is not that Colonel Hart made a single incorrect decision. It is that once personally challenged, she repeatedly treated command authority as a tool to restore control." That line was devastating. Daniel submitted nothing. Good. I was asked whether I wanted to provide a statement. Captain Moreno advised me carefully. "You're not required. What would you do?" "I'm not you." Helpful. "You need to decide whether you have information the board cannot get elsewhere." They already had everything. The salute. The Article 15. The fellowship. The first sergeant position. My statement would mostly add emotion. So I declined. Evelyn heard. She called that night. "You didn't write against me." "No." "Why?" "Because this isn't my board." Silence. Then. "You could have told them what this did to you. They know what you did." "That's different." "Yes. Don't you want them to know?" I thought carefully. "My marriage gets to decide what it did to me. Headquarters gets to decide what it means for your rank." She started crying. Quietly. "Thank you. Don't. I mean it. Evelyn, I'm not protecting you. I know." "Good. I'm refusing to turn my pain into a recommendation about your uniform." Another silence. Then she whispered, "That's what I should have done for you." "Yes. Exactly." 3 weeks later, the grade recommendation returned to division. Not final yet. But the board had reached its conclusion. Highest grade satisfactorily served. Lieutenant Colonel. Oh, 5. Not Colonel. 22 years of service remained. Her awards remained. Her deployments remained. Her retirement remained. But unless the final approval authority rejected the board recommendation, the eagle she had worn through brigade command would not be the rank printed on her retirement orders. Headquarters had not erased her career. It had drawn a line through the last grade. And for the first time since she ordered me to salute Daniel Voss, Evelyn Hart was facing a punishment no apology, spouse, subordinate, or command decision could quietly reverse. Headquarters approved the grade determination on a Tuesday. No ceremony. No formation. No dramatic order read aloud in front of the brigade. At 0847, Evelyn received a memorandum stating that for retirement purposes, the highest grade in which she had served satisfactorily was Lieutenant Colonel. Oh, 5. Her colonel grade was gone. Not retroactively from every photograph. Not erased from history. She had legally served as a colonel. Commanded a brigade as one. Signed orders as one. Received colonel pay while holding the grade. But when she retired, her orders would read, Lieutenant Colonel Evelyn Hart. That was the Army's final answer. I found out from Colonel Bell. He came into the maintenance conference room where I was reviewing convoy readiness numbers and closed the door. It's final. I already knew what he meant. Lieutenant Colonel? Yes. I put down my pen. For months, the story had sounded almost poetic when other people told it. My colonel wife stripped my rank. Headquarters restored mine. Then stripped hers. Clean symmetry. Inside the room, it felt nothing like poetry. Effective when? Her retirement date. So she keeps wearing colonel until then? Bell shook his head. No. That surprised me. The promotion grade was determined unsatisfactory and her retirement orders are being amended. Division directed her current administrative status be reflected at 05 while she completes out processing. I stared at him. They're actually changing the insignia now? Yes. That was different. I had imagined retirement paperwork quietly correcting the title afterward. Not Evelyn physically removing the eagle before she left Fort Redstone. When? This afternoon. I looked away. Belle watched me. You don't have to be there. I wasn't invited. No. Good. I did not want to be. At 13:30, Evelyn reported to division headquarters in Army service uniform. Colonel Eagles on her shoulders. No brigade command patch ceremony. No audience except personnel, legal, her attorney, and the general officer representative handling the action. The insignia did not get ripped off. Nobody humiliated her. A personnel NCO handed her the authorized lieutenant colonel rank. Evelyn stepped into a side room and changed it herself. That detail came from her later. At 13:42, she walked back out wearing silver oak leaves. The same rank Daniel Voss had retired with. The irony was so obvious neither of us ever said it aloud. At 14:10, she called me. I was in my truck. Can you talk? Yes. Her breathing sounded strange. Not crying yet. I'm wearing oak leaves. I closed my eyes. I heard. I thought I was ready. No one is ready for that. I stared at the eagle for almost 5 minutes. I did not know what to say. Then she laughed once. I kept thinking about how angry I was that you wouldn't salute Daniel. There it was. Now I'm retiring at his grade. Don't make this about Daniel. She stopped. You're right. That mattered. Old Evelyn would have found some emotional geometry where Daniel explained everything. He did not. She had made the decisions. She continued. They told me I can submit a written request for reconsideration based on procedural error or new evidence. Is there any? No. Then? I'm not appealing. That surprised me more than the grade itself. You have the right. I know. You have counsel. Yes. You could argue 22 years of satisfactory service outweigh one command period. My lawyer said that too. And? She was quiet. The board didn't say my career was unsatisfactory. No. It said Colonel was. Yes. I hate that sentence. I know. But I understand it. That was harder to hear. She had spent her entire adult life climbing toward that grade. Understanding why it was taken did not make losing it easier. Then she asked. Do you think I served satisfactorily as a colonel? I almost answered too quickly. That would have been a mistake. You want husband Mason or Staff Sergeant Hart? Neither. She paused. Just you. I thought about it. She had led flood responses, training rotations, deployment preparation, equipment modernization. Soldiers had been promoted under her. Families helped. Missions completed. She had done good work. Then she had let one personal conflict bend command authority around her marriage. More than once. I think you did a lot of good work as a colonel. That isn't what I asked. No. I looked through the windshield. I also think when your authority got tangled up with me, you stopped behaving like someone who could safely hold that much authority. Silence. Then. That's probably the answer. Not satisfying. True. Her retirement ceremony was scheduled 6 weeks later. She asked me not to attend. That hurt. Then she explained. I know people will watch you. Yes. If you sit in front, they'll read forgiveness into it. Probably. If you don't smile, they'll read hatred. Yes. If you pin anything on me, they'll make it a redemption story. Definitely. She gave a tired laugh. And if you don't come, people will say our marriage is over. I said nothing. Because that part might have been true. She continued. I don't want to use you one more time to tell the room what kind of person I am. That was the best reason she could have given. Okay. You're not angry? I am. Because I asked you not to come? Yes. But I understand. She started crying. Thank you. Again, no. Not gratitude. Boundary. Her ceremony was small. No brigade formation. No colonel's farewell. She had requested that. Lieutenant Colonel Evelyn Hart retired after 22 years, 7 months, and 11 days of active service. Her retirement award recognized deployments, logistics modernization, operational leadership, and previous command performance. It did not mention the investigation. It did not need to. The absence of the eagle said enough. Major Donovan spoke. Not a general. Not Daniel. Not me. She talked about Evelyn's best years. The lieutenant who slept 3 hours a night during a hurricane relief mission. The major who fought to get armored vehicle parts to a deployed battalion. The battalion commander who stayed at the hospital with a soldier's family after a fatal training accident. A complete person. Not just the last failure. That mattered. Then Evelyn spoke. I watched the recording later. She did not make a confession speech. Thank God. She thanked soldiers, NCOs, families, mentors. Then she said, I spent much of my career believing authority was evidence that people trusted my judgment. Pause. Sometimes authority is simply responsibility you have not yet proven unworthy of. The room went quiet. She continued. I learned too late that rank does not make a personal decision professional simply because you issue it as an order. That was the only direct reference. No names. No Daniel. No me. Then she stepped away from the podium. No one saluted her as she left the room. Not because she was disgraced. Because she was retired. That distinction would have mattered enormously to her once. Maybe it still did. After retirement, the army kept reviewing another problem. Not Evelyn. The system around her. Division headquarters wanted to know how a brigade commander had managed to interfere with her spouse's career opportunities without triggering earlier safeguards. Our marriage had been disclosed. The chain had supposedly been adjusted. I was outside her rating chain. But discretionary opportunities still passed through brigade. That meant separation on paper had not been separation in practice. The solution was not dramatic. Division issued new conflict management procedures for dual military spouses serving within the same brigade-level organization when one held command authority. No commander could personally approve, disapprove, or influence discretionary schools, broadening assignments, special duties, or adverse actions involving a spouse. Those decisions had to move to the next higher headquarters or a designated neutral commander. It was embarrassingly obvious once written. Colonel Bell called it the heart rule. I told him never to say that near Evelyn. He said, too late. Everyone already does. I hated the name. She hated it more. But the rule existed because the old system had relied on the commander believing she could remain objective. That had failed. My fellowship nomination was reconsidered by division. I was selected. 8 months later than originally scheduled. I would spend 6 months working with a joint logistics planning cell before returning to operational assignment. Good opportunity. Not magical career repair. I had still missed the acting first sergeant experience. Nothing could put that back. But I got a future opportunity on my own record. No wife. No compensation favor. No sympathy promotion. That was important to me. Before I left for the fellowship, Evelyn asked to meet. Not at our house. She had moved into a rented townhouse after retirement. We met at a diner outside Post. She wore jeans. No uniform. I had seen her in civilian clothes thousands of times. Still, that day it felt different. No rank to switch into when the conversation became uncomfortable. She noticed me looking. What? Nothing. You're staring. I'm adjusting. To what? Not knowing whether I'm supposed to call you ma'am. She laughed. Then. Please never do that again. Good. We ordered coffee. She had started interviewing for civilian logistics jobs. 3 companies wanted her immediately. One defense contractor offered a vice president title. She turned it down. Why? Too close to the world I just left. Ardent? No. Daniel? No. She smiled faintly. I'm capable of declining something without Daniel being involved. Progress. She kicked my shoe under the table. Then the humor disappeared. I got another offer. Where? A disaster response nonprofit. What role? Regional Operations Director. That sounds more like you. Less money. Also like nonprofits. She smiled. Then looked at me for a long time. Mason, are we still married because we want to be? There it was. The question we had avoided while the Army handled rank, investigation, retirement, and appeals. I did not answer immediately. She continued. Or because divorcing during the investigation would have looked like one more public consequence? Maybe both. I didn't want people saying you left because I lost command. I didn't want people saying I stayed because I was afraid of looking vindictive. She nodded. We had both been letting outsiders into the marriage in a different way. Not command authority. Narrative. What do you want? She asked. I stared at my coffee. I want to trust that if we disagree, you won't reach for the biggest weapon available. Her face tightened. I won't. That's a promise. Yes. I used to believe your promises. That hurt her. It was supposed to. Not cruelly. Accurately. She swallowed. What would make you believe me again? I don't know. That was the problem. Apology did not automatically rebuild trust. Demotion did not either. Punishment can prove the system recognized wrongdoing. It cannot prove a marriage is safe afterward. Evelyn looked out the window. Then, I've been seeing a counselor. I nodded. Not surprised. Not because headquarters told me. Okay. She asked why the salute mattered so much. What did you say? At first, respect. And now? Evelyn laughed sadly. Control. That word had appeared before. But now she explained. Daniel was part of a version of me that existed before you. Army marriage. Officer circles. Career ambition. He understood all of it without explanation. I listened. When you refused to treat him like someone important, I felt like you were refusing to validate a piece of me. That sounds irrational. It was. Then I had colonel rank. Yes. And instead of tolerating the feeling, I used authority to force the room into the version I wanted. There it was. Not love for Daniel. Not affair. Identity. Rank. Control. Evelyn looked directly at me. I made you salute my past because I was afraid you didn't respect it. You didn't actually make me. A tiny smile. No. That was the problem. Yes. We sat there for a long time. Then she asked. Do you want a divorce? I thought about Hangar 3. The motel. My stripe disappearing from the system. The fellowship. The rank on her shoulder changing from eagle to oak leaf. All of it. Then I thought about our years before that. Not enough to decide. Not that night. No. Her eyes filled. Then I added. But I don't know if I want to stay married either. The hope vanished. Not completely. That sounds terrible. It is. She nodded. Then maybe we stop trying to answer immediately. That surprised me. Old Evelyn hated unresolved decisions. She wanted an objective. Timeline. End state. Now she was willing to leave something open. We agreed to live separately for 6 months. No promises about reconciliation. No dating other people. Marriage counseling. Individual counseling. No army. No chain of command. No ex-husband. Just 2 people deciding whether anything remained when the rank difference disappeared. As we stood to leave, Evelyn reached for her wallet. I've got it. I looked at her. You trying to order me? No. Good. She rolled her eyes. Then we split the check. Exactly in half. It was ridiculous. Also strangely right. For years, the biggest problem in our marriage had been Evelyn deciding what respect should look like and then using whatever authority she had to enforce it. Now she had no eagle. No brigade. No UCMJ authority. No power over my assignments. Nothing left that could make me obey except whether I still chose to stand beside her. And for the first time since she ordered me to salute Daniel Voss, she was going to have to find out what my answer looked like when it could not be commanded. 6 months without rank between us was stranger than I expected. Evelyn hated grocery stores. I learned that in week 2. Not because she disliked shopping. Because after 22 years in the army, she could not understand why an entire aisle needed 17 kinds of toothpaste. This is operationally irresponsible, she said. You commanded 4,000 soldiers. Exactly. None of them needed whitening, enamel repair, charcoal, mint blast, cool mint, deep mint, or whatever the hell Arctic Fresh is. I put 2 tubes in the cart. She removed one. We do not need redundancy. It's toothpaste. It's logistics. That was the first time I laughed with her without thinking about Hangar 3. Not because things were fixed. Because for 10 seconds, she was simply Evelyn. No colonel. No lieutenant colonel. No investigation. No oak leaf. Just my wife arguing about toothpaste. Then we left in separate cars. That was our 6-month arrangement. 1 counseling session a week. Dinner occasionally. No sleeping together. No pretending separation had already become reconciliation. I moved into a small apartment near division headquarters before starting the Joint Logistics Fellowship. Evelyn remained in her townhouse. She accepted the nonprofit job. Regional Operations Director for Meridian Relief Network. No uniform. No government authority. No one required to stand when she entered. Her first week went badly. She told me over dinner. My deputy ignored my deployment plan. Why? He thought it was inefficient. Was it? Yes. I stared at her. You admitted that quickly. Don't sound so impressed. What happened? He changed it. Without permission? He's allowed to. That still offended her. I could tell. And? It worked better. I smiled. Civilian life is brutal. You have no idea. Then she said something more important. I almost wrote him up. For disagreeing. For bypassing me. Did he? No. She stabbed a piece of chicken. The policy says regional leads can alter plans if field conditions change. So he used his authority. Yes. And you hated it. Yes. Why? She stared at me. Then laughed. You already know. Control. Again. Only this time she had recognized it before converting irritation into punishment. That was progress. It did not erase anything. But progress rarely looks dramatic from inside it. My fellowship started better. For the first time in years, nobody introduced me as Colonel Hart's husband. Most people did not know. The planning cell included Army logisticians, Air Force officers, civilians, and 2 Marine warrant officers who seemed genetically incapable of agreeing with anybody. I loved it. Our first major project involved redesigning distribution assumptions for a joint exercise in the Pacific. Nobody cared who I was married to. They cared whether my fuel calculations worked. They did. Mostly. When they didn't, a civilian analyst named Priya Nanduri destroyed them in 11 minutes. You built the model around average turnaround time. Yes. Why? Because that's what the historical data shows. Historical averages hide weather delays. I included a delay factor. You included one. There are 4. She rotated her screen. She was right. I stared at it. Damn. You're welcome. No rank. No spouse. No hidden influence. Just work. I rebuilt the model. 2 weeks later, the cell chief selected me to brief it to a 3-star. Not because anyone owed me compensation for the fellowship delay. Because the model was mine. That mattered more than I expected. I called Evelyn afterward. How'd it go? General asked 3 questions. You answered. 2. And the third? Priya answered. Who's Priya? Analyst. Smart? Annoyingly. Evelyn went quiet for half a second. I noticed. Then. Good. That was all. No jealousy. No question about age. No joke about me liking civilian women. She was trying. I was too. Counseling forced us into conversations neither of us could control. Dr. Helen Brooks was 61, wore bright scarves, and had no visible fear of military officers. Even former ones. At our 4th session she asked Evelyn, what would have happened if Mason had saluted Daniel? Evelyn answered immediately. The event would have continued. No. I mean inside you. That stopped her. I would have felt. She looked toward me. Validated. By what? That Mason understood Daniel's service deserved respect. Dr. Brooks asked. Did Mason ever say Daniel's service did not deserve respect? No. Did he insult Daniel's record? No. Then what needed validation? Evelyn was silent. Finally. That I got to decide what respect looked like. There it was. Dr. Brooks turned to me. And if you had saluted? I would have been angry. At Daniel? No. At yourself? Yes. That surprised Evelyn. Why yourself? Because I knew it wasn't required. She frowned. You've done unnecessary courtesies before. Sure. Then why was that different? I had thought about that for months. Because you weren't asking for courtesy. I looked directly at her. You were asking me to publicly confirm that he still outranked me in some way that mattered to you. Evelyn's face changed. I didn't think of it like that. I did. Dr. Brooks asked. And was Daniel the real issue? No. I had finally reached that conclusion too. If some random retired lieutenant colonel had walked up and you said, Mason, humor the old guy, I might have done it. Evelyn winced. But Daniel was your ex. Yes. And you already corrected me for calling him Daniel. Yes. You already told him you'd correct me if I did it in uniform. Yes. So by Hangar 3, the salute wasn't one salute. She lowered her eyes. No. It was a loyalty test. She nodded. Yes. That was the first time we used those words. Loyalty test. Not military courtesy. Not respect. Not jealousy. She wanted me to prove that her past, her professional identity, and the people who had shaped it could not be diminished by my discomfort. And she chose a gesture she had the rank to demand. Dr. Brooks asked, "Why did you need Mason to lose that test?" Evelyn looked confused. "I didn't. You gave him two possible outcomes. Salute and accept your definition. Or refuse and become insubordinate." Silence. Dr. Brooks leaned back. "Where was the outcome in which he disagreed with you and remained respectable?" Evelyn started crying. Not dramatically. Just tears. "There wasn't one." "Exactly. That was the problem, bigger than the rank. In our marriage, disagreement had slowly become proof that I did not understand her enough. Did not respect her career enough. Did not support her enough. Then, because she became a brigade commander, one disagreement finally encountered institutional force. She did not create that pattern in Hangar 3. She simply gained a weapon large enough to expose it. After counseling, we sat in my truck. She wiped her face. "I hate her." "Dr. Brooks?" "Yes. She seems nice. She's a terrorist. Therapeutic terrorist." Evelyn laughed. Then went quiet. "I did that before the army stuff too." "What?" "Made disagreement mean something bigger. I knew. When you didn't want to move to Redstone." "Yes. You said I wasn't supporting your command. You had just started the marina expansion." "Yes. I treated that like you were choosing Harborline over me." "Also yes. When you didn't want Daniel at my promotion dinner. I didn't want him at our family table. And I said you were insecure." "Yes." She looked at me. "I was really good at winning arguments." "You were." "Was I ever good at hearing them?" I did not answer. She already knew. The 6-month separation reached month 4. That was when Daniel Voss contacted me. Directly. First time since the investigation. He sent one email. "Mason, I'm leaving Ardent at the end of the month. Before I go, I'd like 15 minutes. Public place. No business, no Evelyn if you don't want it. You can ignore this." I almost did. Then I showed Evelyn. She read it. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." Old Evelyn would have had an opinion before I finished the sentence. New Evelyn handed the phone back. "Then decide. No warning. No demand. No, he deserves to explain." That mattered. I met Daniel at a coffee shop outside Atlanta. He looked older than I remembered. Less polished. No contractor badge. No lieutenant colonel identity hovering around him. Just Daniel. He started with, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "Being in the middle. You didn't order anything." "No. You told her to leave it alone." "Yes. So?" He looked uncomfortable. "I knew she had a problem with how you treated me. You liked it." He did not deny it. "That's what I'm apologizing for." "Interesting." Daniel continued. "I didn't want the salute. But I liked that she cared whether you respected me." There it was. A smaller ego. Still an ego. I liked knowing some part of her still measured people against what I had been. "You were married 12 years. 11. Whatever." He smiled. Then. "I should have shut it down harder. You told her not to involve you." "Yes. That was enough." "No." He looked directly at me. "Because I kept taking the calls." That surprised me. "What calls?" "Not secret romantic ones. Professional. Career advice. Contractor introductions. Old unit gossip. Questions about officers. The kind of relationship two former spouses who remained in overlapping defense circles could explain away easily. And probably honestly. But Daniel understood now that his presence had become something Evelyn used to compare eras of her life. "I liked being the guy she still called when she wanted the old army answer," he said. "And? You hated it." "Yes. I told myself that was your insecurity." "Convenient. Very." He stirred his coffee. "I never slept with her after the divorce." "I know. I never tried to get her back." "I know. But I also never really gave your marriage clean space." That was fair. I appreciated it more because he did not exaggerate his guilt. Then he said, "The investigation cost her more than it should have." I looked up. "Careful. I'm not saying the rank decision was wrong." "Then what?" "She built her identity around command." "I know. When they took it, I realized I'd spent years helping her believe the old version of herself was always available whenever she called." That sounded familiar. Access. Different story, same human temptation. He finished his coffee. I'm moving to Colorado. New job? Commercial aviation. No defense? No. Why? He smiled. I'm tired of people calling me Lieutenant Colonel. For the first time in years, I liked him. A little. Not enough to salute. We stood. He held out his hand. I shook it. Then Daniel said, "One thing." "What?" "Don't stay with Evelyn because you think losing you would complete her punishment." That irritated me immediately. I'm not. Good. Anything else? "Don't leave her because you think staying would undo it." That one landed harder. He left. I sat there another 10 minutes. Because that was exactly the trap. If I stayed, people could call it forgiveness. Redemption. Proof Evelyn had changed. If I left, people could call it the final consequence. The punishment matching the headline. Neither had anything to do with whether I wanted to wake up beside her 10 years from now. Our final month of separation forced that question. Not. Had she suffered enough? Not. Had I won? Not. Did she regret it? Did I trust her enough to build another marriage from what remained? And did I want to? The answer came one evening when she called from Oklahoma. Meridian Relief had sent her to coordinate tornado response. 37 homes destroyed. 2 schools damaged. No deaths. She had been awake 20 hours. "You sound awful," I said. "Thank you." "What happened?" "County emergency manager wants 6 additional generators. Can you get them?" "Yes." "Problem?" "My regional director wants 4 held for another state." "Then?" "I disagree." "Fight it." I did. "And?" He said no. I waited. "So what did you do?" "Sent 4. "And the county?" "Found 2 through a utility cooperative. Everyone survived." "Yes." She sounded amused. Then, "You know what's insane?" "What?" He said no to me. "I've heard civilians do that." And I was angry for about 30 seconds. Only 30? 45. Growth. I did not threaten his career. Gold star. She laughed. Then went quiet. "Mason." "Yes?" "I think I finally know what I'm asking from you." I tightened my grip on the phone. "What?" "Nothing." I said nothing. "I'm not asking you to come home. Not asking you to forgive me. Not asking you to prove I've changed. Not asking you to stay because I lost my career." She breathed in. "I want you to make the decision that is best for your life, even if the answer is me losing mine with you." That was the first completely powerless thing Evelyn Hart had ever offered me. Choice. Real choice. No preferred outcome disguised as duty. No test. No consequence attached to the wrong answer. And that was exactly why I finally knew mine. "I need to tell you something when you're back." She went silent. "Good or bad?" "I'm not doing that." "Doing what?" "Giving you time to prepare the correct reaction." A tiny laugh. "Fair." She returned to Georgia 3 days later. We met at the same diner where we had agreed to separate. Same booth. Same coffee. This time she did not ask what I wanted. She waited. I looked at the woman across from me. I still loved her. I believed she regretted what she had done. I believed losing the eagle had changed her. Counseling had changed her more. Civilian work had changed her differently. And none of that changed one final fact. When I imagined being 70 years old, I did not want to spend the next 30 years checking whether every disagreement was safe. Maybe that fear would fade. Maybe not. But marriage should not require permanent internal surveillance. I reached across the table. Took her hand. Her eyes filled immediately. "I'm going to file for divorce." She closed them. One tear fell. Then another. Her fingers tightened around mine. But she did not argue. Did not ask why. Did not list her progress. Did not mention counseling. Did not mention 22 years. Did not say Daniel was gone. Did not say she had lost enough. After almost a minute, she opened her eyes. "Okay." That word broke my heart. Because for the first time, Evelyn accepted an answer she hated without trying to change the person who gave it. And that was how I knew she really had changed. Just too late to save us. I filed for divorce 11 days after Evelyn came back from Oklahoma. Nothing about it felt victorious. No courthouse confrontation. No papers dropped on a table. No line about taking half of anything. We had already spent 6 months living separately. The filing simply made the decision official. Evelyn accepted service through her attorney. No challenge. No delay. No request that I wait until after some anniversary, retirement milestone, or job transition. That restraint probably hurt more than resistance would have. Our house was the first real problem. We had bought it 7 years earlier, before she made Colonel. 3 bedrooms. A small yard. Garage too narrow for my truck. The dining room where promotion packets, deployment calendars, and Daniel Voss's name had appeared far too often. Neither of us wanted it. So we sold. Not because it had become cursed. Because keeping it would have required one of us to build a future inside the architecture of the old marriage. The buyer was an Air Force family transferring in from Texas. They loved the kitchen. Evelyn stood beside me during closing and smiled when the husband said, "My wife picked the place. I just obey orders." Everyone laughed. Except us. Not because the joke offended me. Because 2 years earlier, I probably would have laughed hardest. The difference between a marriage joke and a real command problem had become too sharp. Outside the title office, Evelyn said, "I hate that line now." "I know. I used to say things like that." "You did." You laughed. "I did." "Did you mean it?" "At first. Yes. No. And later?" I looked at her. "Sometimes." She nodded. No defense. Then, "I'm sorry. We had said that enough." This time I answered, "I know." The divorce moved slowly because Army retirement paperwork, property division, insurance, and relocation benefits all touched the timeline. Not dramatically. Just bureaucratically. Forms. Disclosure. Account balances. Retirement division calculations. The kind of ending nobody writes songs about. Meanwhile, I finished the Joint Logistics Fellowship. That mattered more to me than I expected. For 6 months, I worked in a building where almost nobody knew Evelyn. Where nobody cared about Hangar 3. Where Daniel was not a name attached to my professionalism. Where the only rank on my chest was mine. Near the end of the fellowship, Colonel Bell called. "You sitting down?" "No." "Sit down. I'm in a hallway." "Then lean." I laughed. "What happened?" "Your name is on the Sergeant First Class promotion list." I stopped walking. "What?" "Selection list published this morning." I had known the board had met. I had tried not to think about it. Promotion to E7 was never guaranteed. Even with the fellowship. Even with restored records. Even with strong evaluations. The Army did not owe me a stripe because my wife had once tried to take one. "Are you sure?" Bell laughed. "I've read your name 4 times. I found an empty conference room and closed the door. When do I pin?" "Sequence number isn't low." "So not immediately." "No." "Good." Strangely, I was glad. No instant reward. No cinematic headquarters apology followed by promotion. Just selection. The same process everyone else went through. Then Bell said, "There's something you need to know." "Of course." "What?" "Your board file included a memorandum explaining the removal of the old adverse action." My stomach tightened. So they knew. They knew a command action had been set aside. Did they know Evelyn was my wife? The memorandum did not identify the relationship beyond conflict of interest correction. I sat down. That mattered. The board did not promote Colonel Hart's husband out of sympathy. It evaluated Staff Sergeant Mason Hart after the record had been corrected. Who wrote the memo? Division G1. Any letter from General Rourke? No. Bell? No. Special endorsement? No. I smiled. Good. You sound disappointed. Opposite. Bell understood. Yeah. Then he said, "You earned it." That phrase should be simple. It wasn't. For almost a year, every professional success had come with an invisible question. Did somebody compensate me because of what Evelyn did? Did headquarters want to make the scandal disappear? Was I becoming a symbol instead of a soldier? This selection answered at least part of that. No special board. No directed promotion. No general officer pulling strings. Just a list. My name on it. I called Evelyn that evening. She answered from Kansas City, where Meridian had sent her for flood response planning. "Hey. I got selected." Silence. Then she screamed. Actually screamed. I pulled the phone away. "What the hell? Sergeant First Class? Selected. Not pinned. I know how promotion lists work, Mason." Former Lieutenant Colonel flexing. "Absolutely." She was laughing. Then suddenly crying. I'm proud of you. Thank you. I mean that without adding anything. I knew what she meant. Not. See, everything worked out. Not. Maybe my interference didn't really hurt you. Not. Now we're even. Just proud. That mattered. Then she asked. Did they know about us? No special consideration. Good. Same answer I had. Belle says probably several months before pin-on. Where will you be? My follow-on assignment came through too. Where? Fort Carson. Silence. Colorado. The same state Daniel had moved to. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Evelyn did first. You have got to be kidding. I checked twice. Please don't tell me Voss works near there. Commercial aviation in Denver. Oh, for God's sake. Relax. I am relaxed. You sound like you're about to invade Colorado. She laughed. Then stopped. Are you happy? About the assignment? The promotion? The divorce? I knew what she was really asking. Yes. Not completely. But enough. Good. She said it quietly. The divorce hearing happened 2 months later. By then my orders for Fort Carson were official. Evelyn had settled into civilian work full-time. No more Army retirement appointments. No installation office. No reason to return to Fort Redstone except the occasional medical appointment. We sat side by side in a county courtroom. Not touching. The judge reviewed the settlement. House sold. Savings divided by agreement. Retirement portion handled according to the negotiated order. No children. No support dispute. No business assets. Then he asked. Is the marriage irretrievably broken? That phrase sounded larger than it was. I said. Yes. Evelyn hesitated maybe half a second. Then. Yes. The judge signed. That was it. Mason Hart and Evelyn Hart were no longer married. Outside, she handed me an envelope. What is this? Open it later. No. Mason. You lost command authority. You can't give instructions anymore. She rolled her eyes. Please open it later. Better. I put it in my jacket. Then we stood there with nothing left to sign. Evelyn looked at my chest. Still Staff Sergeant. You know what's funny? What? I spent months obsessed with making sure you respected rank. And now? Now I'm waiting for you to outrank the version of yourself I tried to reduce. That was not technically how enlisted rank worked. But I understood. I said. You didn't create the promotion. I know. Your punishment didn't create it either. I know. Good. She smiled. That's why I'm allowed to be proud. Yes. Then she hugged me. No cameras. No uniforms for her. No Daniel. No headquarters. Just goodbye. That evening, I opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph. The day I made Staff Sergeant. 5 years earlier. Evelyn in uniform beside me. Then a colonel. I was holding the promotion certificate. She was grinning harder than I was. On the back, she had written. I was proud of this rank before I ever tried to use mine against it. I'm sorry I forgot they belonged to 2 different people. Below that. Congratulations on the next one. This time, I'll stand where family belongs. In the audience. I sat with that for a long time. Then folded the note back into the envelope. 3 months later, my sequence number came up. Promotion ceremony. Fort Carson. Small battalion formation. No general officers. No symbolic revenge. Command Sergeant Major Teresa Wynne read the orders. I stepped forward. Staff Sergeant Mason Hart became Sergeant First Class Mason Hart. E7. My new battalion commander pinned one side. I had asked my younger sister, Paige, to pin the other. Family. Simple. When I looked into the audience, Evelyn was there. 3rd row. Civilian dress. No oak leaf. No eagle. No front row privilege. She had asked before coming. That mattered. Daniel was not there. Of course he wasn't. When the ceremony ended, soldiers and families came forward. Evelyn waited. Did not push through. Did not assume access because she used to be my wife. When her turn came, she looked at the new rank. Sergeant First Class. I smiled. Lieutenant Colonel. She shook her head. Retired. Fair. Then she raised her hand halfway. For one terrible second, I thought she was going to salute me as a joke. Instead she stopped herself. We both stared at her hand. then burst out laughing. She lowered it. Too soon. Forever. Understood. She held out her hand instead. I shook it. Then she said, "You look happy." "I am. Good." There was no pain hidden under that word this time. Or maybe there was. But she did not make it mine to solve. Later that evening, she flew back to Kansas City. I went to dinner with my new platoon leadership. Life kept moving. Months passed. My new job was harder than the fellowship. E7 meant more people. More consequences. More chances to become exactly the kind of leader I had once judged from below. That scared me in a useful way. The first time one of my sergeants publicly disagreed with me during a maintenance meeting, every head in the room turned. He was right. I was embarrassed. For half a second, I understood Evelyn more clearly than I ever had. The desire to restore control was immediate. Correct him. Remind everyone who owned the meeting. Win. Then I heard Dr. Brooks in my head. Where is the outcome in which someone disagrees with you and remains respectable? So I said. Sergeant Diaz is right. Use his numbers. The room moved on. Nothing collapsed. My authority survived. That was the lesson Evelyn paid an eagle to learn. I got to learn it for free. A year after the divorce, General Rourke retired. At his farewell, a reporter asked about the Hart case because the new conflict of interest policy had spread to several subordinate commands. His answer made military news for about one day. He said, "Rank exists to carry responsibility downward, not personal hurt upward." I never knew whether he meant Evelyn specifically. Probably. She sent me the article. One message. That one hurt. I replied. Because it's wrong? She answered. Because it isn't. That was our relationship now. Occasional messages. Birthdays. Career updates. Nothing romantic. Nothing unfinished enough to drag either of us backward. Then, 18 months after my promotion, Evelyn called with news. Meridian had offered her national operations leadership. Not military authority. No uniform. But hundreds of employees. Major disaster deployments. Real power again. I'm thinking about taking it. Do you want it? Yes. Then? I'm scared I want control more than responsibility. That question alone told me she was not the same leader who stood outside Hangar 3. What are you going to do? Ask the board exactly what authority comes with the role. Good. What decisions require review? Good. How staff can challenge me? Very good. She laughed. You're enjoying this. A lot. Then she said, I used to think strong leaders needed fewer limits. And now? I think strong systems survive strong leaders by giving them more. That was probably the best thing she ever learned from losing Colonel. She accepted the job. I congratulated her. No fear. No resentment. No thought that her success somehow reduced mine. Our careers had finally become what they should have been from the beginning. Separate. Hers to build. Mine to build. Neither one proof of the other person's loyalty. By then, hardly anyone at Fort Carson knew the full story. To them, I was Sergeant First Class Hart. Not the enlisted husband who refused to salute a colonel's ex. Not the soldier whose rank disappeared for a day. Not the man headquarters vindicated. Just Hart. That anonymity felt better than revenge ever could. And sometimes, when a young soldier saluted an officer outside headquarters and I returned a greeting from the sidewalk, I remembered Hangar 3. The moment Evelyn thought respect had to be compelled to count. The moment I refused. The stripe she tried to take. The Eagle headquarters eventually took from her. But the part that stayed with me was not who lost which insignia. It was the quieter lesson underneath both. Rank can make people obey. It cannot make them agree. It cannot make them respect your past. It cannot make a marriage safe. And the moment you use authority to force what only trust can give, you start losing something no promotion board can restore. 3 years after Hangar 3, Evelyn called me during a hurricane. That sentence would once have meant trouble. By then, it meant something else. I was a sergeant first class at Fort Carson, serving as a platoon sergeant in a sustainment company preparing for a rotation overseas. Evelyn was National Operations Director for Meridian Relief Network. We lived in different states. We spoke perhaps once every 2 months. No romance. No unfinished divorce drama. Just two people who had once been married long enough to understand each other's silences. Hurricane Laurel had hit the Gulf Coast hard. Meridian was moving generators, water systems, shelters, and medical supplies into 3 counties. The Army had units supporting civilian authorities too, but my organization was nowhere near the response. So when Evelyn called at 2314, I knew she was not calling Sergeant First Class Hart for resources. Mason. You sound terrible. I've slept 90 minutes. Then my professional recommendation is sleep. Rejected. Civilian authority is out of control. She laughed. Then went quiet. I need your opinion. Dangerous. I have an employee I want to fire. That woke me up. Why? He told a county emergency manager we could guarantee 30 generators tomorrow. Can you? No. Then that seems bad. It is. What actually happened? Her deputy regional director, Owen Mercer, had been under pressure from county officials after 2 shelters lost backup power. Meridian had 12 generators physically available. Another 8 might arrive the following afternoon. 30 was impossible. Mercer promised them anyway. Then instructed logistics staff to make the numbers work. I frowned. That phrase should be illegal. Agreed. What did staff say? One manager told him the commitment was impossible. And? He told her that if she couldn't support the operational decision, he'd replace her. I went quiet. Evelyn did too. We both knew why. Sounds familiar, I said. Yes. What are you asking me? My first reaction was to terminate him tonight. Because he overpromised? Yes. Or because he reminded you of yourself? Silence. Then. That's why I called. There it was. Not permission. Not validation. A check. Years earlier, Evelyn would have made the decision first and found policy language afterward. Now she was worried her personal reaction might contaminate professional judgment. What does HR say? They recommend removing his commitment authority tonight and investigating tomorrow. Then why fire him now? Because threatening the logistics manager crossed a line. Probably. Probably. You don't know the context yet. She sighed. I hate when you're reasonable. I learned from expensive examples. Very funny. Do what your system says. Another silence. Then she laughed softly. That's exactly what I needed. No. I corrected myself. That's exactly what you already knew. Yes. She did not fire Mercer that night. She removed his authority to make external resource commitments. Assigned someone else to the county. Opened a documented review. 2 days later, investigators found the logistics manager had actually warned him 3 times. Written messages. Resource dashboard screenshots. A direct email. Mercer knew 30 generators were impossible and promised them anyway because he feared the county would shift its partnership to another relief organization. He also threatened the manager after she refused to alter the availability report. Meridian terminated him. Not because Evelyn was angry. Because evidence supported it. She called afterward. He's gone. I assumed. He appealed. Also normal. HR upheld it. Then? I still feel guilty. Why? Because part of me enjoyed being able to say no to him. I understood that too. Authority has emotional rewards people pretend do not exist. I don't think the goal is never feeling that. What is? Not letting the feeling become the evidence. She was quiet. Then. You're getting annoyingly good at this. I'm an E7. We specialize in unsolicited wisdom. That explains a lot. We hung up. I did not think much about the conversation afterward. Then 6 months later, Evelyn mailed me something. Not rank insignia. Not a photograph. A policy document. Meridian had adopted a new operational commitment rule. Any disaster response promise involving resources beyond confirmed availability had to be reviewed by logistics before being communicated externally. Senior leaders could override logistics only in writing, with documented risk and executive review. At the bottom of Evelyn's note. Turns out, because I said so, remains a terrible logistics model. I laughed for 5 minutes. Then put the document in the same folder as the old photograph from my staff sergeant promotion. Not because the two belonged together legally. Because emotionally, they did. One showed the woman Evelyn had been before she confused authority with correctness. The other showed the leader she became after losing enough authority to understand the difference. My own career kept moving. Not perfectly. I did not make first sergeant immediately. Twice, another NCO was selected ahead of me for temporary leadership positions. The first time, I was furious. The second time, less. Neither decision involved Evelyn. That alone felt like freedom. Eventually, at 15 years of service, I was selected for a permanent first sergeant position. No special story. No headquarters intervention. No compensation. Just orders. My company commander, Captain Andrea Ruiz, called me into her office. "Hart. Ma'am. You're taking Charlie company." I stared at her. "First sergeant?" "Yes." "Why?" She raised an eyebrow. "You want me to reconsider?" "No, ma'am." "Then leave before I do." I walked outside grinning like an idiot. My first call was to my sister. My second was Colonel Bell, now retired. My third. I stared at Evelyn's name. Then called. She answered. "Mason? I got Charlie company." Silence. Then. "First sergeant?" "Yes." Another scream. Apparently rank changes still destroyed her ability to control volume. "Jesus, Evelyn. Sorry. You said that last time." I lied. She laughed. Then became quiet. "I'm proud of you." "Thank you. Can I come to the assumption of responsibility ceremony?" That question mattered. Not. "When is it?" Not. "I'll be there." "Can I?" Yes. She attended. Sat with everyone else. No military spouse seating. No former colonel treatment. No place beside the commander. Just Evelyn Hart. She had kept the surname after divorce because changing it professionally was more trouble than it was worth, sitting near the back beside my sister. When the ceremony ended, I stood in front of Charlie Company as their first sergeant. 112 soldiers. My responsibility. Not my property. That distinction lived in my head every day. Afterward, Evelyn found me near the motor pool. "First Sergeant Hart. Civilian Hart. That sounds insulting." "It's accurate." She smiled. Then looked at the diamond insignia on my chest. "You know what I thought during the ceremony?" "What?" "That rank looks heavier from the audience." I understood. When you wear it, authority can feel like capability. From outside, sometimes all you can see is the number of people who must live with your decisions. She asked. "You scared?" "Yes." "Good." I was hoping for encouragement. That was encouragement. Fair. Then a young private walked past. Saw me. Straightened immediately. "Morning, First Sergeant." "Morning." He kept going. Evelyn watched him. "You like that?" "What?" The instant respect. "I like that he knows who the first sergeant is." That wasn't my question. I smiled. "Yes. Of course I did. Anybody who tells you rank feels like nothing is probably lying. Being recognized feels good. Being obeyed can feel good. Being important feels good. The danger was never feeling it. The danger was starting to believe the feeling proved you were right." I told her that. She nodded. "I wish someone had told me." "People probably did." She looked offended. "That's rude." "Accurate." Then she laughed. A year later, I received a photograph from Daniel Voss. That was unexpected. He was standing beside a passenger jet in Denver wearing a company jacket. No uniform. No insignia. On the back he had written, "Still no salute required." I mailed back a note. Still not getting one. That was the extent of our relationship. Exactly enough. Evelyn never remarried. At least not during the years we stayed in contact. I dated. Nothing serious for a while. Eventually I met Hannah Cole, a civilian physical therapist near Colorado Springs. She knew almost nothing about military rank when we started dating. The first time she saw a colonel's eagle, she asked whether it was some kind of fancy bird badge. I nearly proposed immediately. Eventually, 2 years later, I did. Before the wedding, I told Evelyn. Not because I needed permission. Because she had been part of my life for too long to hear it from someone else. She was quiet. Then. "Is she good to you?" "Yes." "Are you good to her?" "I'm trying." Then congratulations. No breakdown. No last confession. No attempt to reopen anything. She sent us a gift. A set of ridiculously expensive kitchen knives. Her note. For disagreements that should remain strictly culinary. Hannah loved them. She knew the whole story by then. The salute. The reduction. The investigation. Evelyn losing Colonel. Everything. One night after our wedding, Hannah asked, "Do you ever think headquarters punished her too much?" I considered it. Sometimes. Do you think they were wrong? No. Both can be true? Yes. That was one thing the headline never captured. Consequences can be deserved and still hurt. Evelyn had served her country well for most of 22 years. She had also misused the authority of Colonel badly enough that the army decided she had not served satisfactorily in that grade. Both were true. I loved her for years. I also stopped trusting her enough to remain married. Both were true. Daniel had fed part of the dynamic. He also told her not to involve him and later testified honestly. Both were true. And I had been right not to salute him. That did not mean I had been perfect in the marriage that brought us to Hangar 3. Also true. The last time Evelyn and I discussed the case was almost 7 years after it happened. Meridian had sent her to Colorado for a conference. We had coffee. Hannah knew. No secrets. Evelyn looked older. So did I. She had gray near her temples now. Do people still know? She asked. Know what? The story. Some. What do they say? Usually the short version. She smiled. My colonel wife stripped my rank for refusing to salute her ex. Headquarters restored mine. Stripped hers. She winced. Still brutal. Very clickable. She laughed. Then. Is it accurate? I thought. Technically. But? It makes it sound like headquarters did it for me. She nodded. They didn't. No. They did it because of what I did. Yes. And your rank came back because the punishment was defective and the underlying order didn't hold up. Yes. She stirred her coffee. So the satisfying version is less true. Usually. Then she looked at me. Would you refuse again? The salute? Yes. Absolutely. She smiled. I figured. Would you order it again? No. Immediate. Would you want me to? She thought longer. That's different. How? I think part of me would still want the gesture. At least she was honest. But I'd know wanting it doesn't make it mine to require. That was probably the final answer. Respect can be wanted. Love can be wanted. Recognition can be wanted. None of them become rights because you have enough rank to punish refusal. We finished coffee. Outside, Evelyn headed toward her rental car. I headed toward mine. No dramatic goodbye. Then she stopped. Mason. I turned. She raised her right hand. For 1 second, I froze. Then she gave me the worst salute I had ever seen. Loose fingers. Bent wrist. Elbow too low. Deliberately awful. I laughed. Disgusting. I'm a civilian. Clearly. She lowered her hand. Do I get one back? No. She smiled. Good. And walked away. That was the last salute between us. Voluntary. Ridiculous. Worth nothing officially. Which was exactly why it meant more than the one she once tried to force. Years earlier, outside Hangar 3, Colonel Evelyn Hart believed her rank gave her the power to decide what respect looked like. When I refused, she tried to strip mine. Headquarters restored it. Then the army took her eagle and sent her into retirement with oak leaves. People called that justice. Maybe it was. But the larger consequence was quieter. She learned authority cannot manufacture respect. I learned being right does not make loss painless. And both of us learned that rank is safest in the hands of someone who knows exactly where it stops. Mine stopped at the edge of another person's dignity. Hers should have too. It took an eagle to teach her. It took a marriage to teach me. And every time a soldier saluted an officer near me afterward, I remembered the moment that changed both our lives. Not because I refused to raise my hand. Because for the first time, I refused to let someone else decide what my hand meant. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.